So, Alicia Miller here, psychotherapist, integrates Christianity into services. So, on the first day of May, Mental Health Awareness, I want to kick this door open and have a real conversation about sex and boundaries. We just got through having a conversation with our kids, and it went something like this. My daughter comes up and says, "Hey, this girl in class, she was talking about being abused and raped by a relative. And these are the things that happened." And the kids were like, and she wasn't talking about her vagina, but I know she was talking about her vagina. Correct. She's like, "Why didn't they use that word?" I'm like, "I don't know." So, of course, we let the principal know, we let the teacher know, we let, these different things. And then my boys are sitting there and they're like, "What does rape mean?" So, "Daughter, what does rape mean? You're using a powerful word." And she's like, she it's where someone puts something inside you and you don't want that to happen. Correct. My husband chimes in. No means no. Period. No means no. No coercion, no manipulation, no threats. Rape is sexual assault. So there is clear definition. It is where you say no. No, I do not want your mouth on my body. No, I do not want my mouth on your body. No, you cannot put anything here. You cannot touch me in my sexual parts. You can't do any of this stuff. And someone does it anyways. Most people associate rape is equated to you have to scream, you have to yell, you got to fight, you have to have marks. That's not always the truth. Sometimes the stress response is you freeze and you're silent and you're frozen because you're in shock that this person you respect, you admire them, you love them, they're literally hurting you and raping you, and you're so frozen that you can't even respond. Why are we having this conversation? Because I am one therapist, one. And my caseload and my patients that I see, I've stopped counting how many men and women sit across from me who have carried the abuse they endured as a child. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, sexual molestation from babysitters, uncles, relatives, parents, ministers, Sunday school department heads, from being molested by men and women. Okay? I'm only one person. We have to raise the conversation so we stop raising more people who will hurt somebody because it is their right to have sex with somebody, and it doesn't matter if someone says no. We have to start working on believing the victims, because often what I hear is I will say, "Who supported you?" Nobody. What was the response when you told someone, or they found you? They found this individual hurting you. What was the response? And more oftentimes than not, the child is blamed, the victim is blamed, while the adult who knew better, well, you know what? It's under the blood. God just, he'll forgive you. While this child goes through their entire life questioning what happened to them and why, what was so sexually attractive about them at the age of 6. Newsflash, there's nothing sexy about a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 11-year-old. There is not a thing that is sexy about a child. So we have to change the conversation. So then my son picks up a pillow, because I have pillows in the office, I have pillows at home, about boundaries and emotions, and he picks it up and goes, "Mom, sexual boundaries. This is what this is." Correct, it is. We also had a conversation with them. What do you do if someone tells you? What do you do if someone comes at you? What do you do if you see something happening? Do you sweep it under the rug and walk away, or do you help them? Do you stand up for what's right? Have the conversation. And the way that you have the conversation, you got to have conversation about sex with yourself. How comfortable are you with the topic of sex, and you're having it? Is your sex life with your spouse okay? Is it equal? Is it going back and forth? Does your spouse know that you've been raped? Does your spouse know that you've been molested? Because a lot of times I have couples who come, and the first time their spouse is like, "There's something wrong with us sexually," and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I was raped and molested for 5 years of my life by this person." That's men and women. Does your spouse know about your sexual history of what has happened to you? Because it might change how you guys can heal together and get you out of sexual anorexia. Does your church have conversations? Does your school talk about this? Does your family talk about this? How do you talk about this with your kids? Your teenagers, how do you respond? How do you, if someone comes at you, what's the role play? What are you saying? What are you teaching them? So we have to have the conversation, because so many times I hear people and I'm like, well, what were you taught about sex? I was taught it was my fault. I was taught that I couldn't say no. Once I got married, I could never tell him no. No matter what, I couldn't tell him no. I was taught it was my fault that he looked at pornography because I didn't have sex all the time with him. We have to have the conversation. You stop child abuse, you stop rape when you start talking about what real healthy sex is, what biblical sex is, what is not healthy. Misuse of scripture so you can dehumanize another person for your sexual gratification is the misuse of scripture at the end of the day, period. Sex done right is beautiful. Sex done wrong is a lifetime of someone being twisted and confused in their head. So we have to keep having the conversation. So then that way when kids come up and say, this happened to me, your kids know how to respond. They know how to go get help. When someone approaches them and tries to push the boundaries, they know how to say, no, we ain't doing none of this. And I'm going to go tell my mama. And if your kids come to you and tell you, your teenager comes to you and says, hey, this happened, what would it look like for you to believe them? Instead of saying, no, that person would never do that. Uncle Joe Smith would never do that to you. Brother so-and-so, sister so-and-so would never do that to you, because women molest too. It's not just men. You got to believe the victims. Where there is one victim, there's probably more victims. They will keep collecting the victims and they will use them and they will discard them. That's how it goes. There is never just one. So, mental health awareness, we're going to be throwing out different videos today. It is have the conversation about sex. What is sexual violence? What is rape? What is molestation? What is sexual boundaries? Have the conversation with yourself. Have it with your spouse. Have it with your kids. It's time that we stop putting our head in the sand when it comes to the conversation of sex and start having a real conversation so we can help other people stop getting raped and molested. God bless.